first day of the European campaign of the 2019-2020 IBSF BMW World Cup for bobsleigh and skeleton. Hello everybody, welcome to Winterberg in Hochsauerland in Germany as we get ready for the first day of action, which unusually this weekend is four-man. It is a double four-man weekend, and the four-man sleds and the women's bob will race today and Saturday with skeleton on Sunday. And that means I'm joined in the booth by our Belgian slider, Anne van Nieuwenhuis, who'll be racing tomorrow. And this Winterberg track everybody knows well. Where are we going to see the mistakes today?
I think the mistakes will be mostly at the top of the track. This is a really crucial part of the track. You can see going into curve 0, it's so important to get it right, not go into a skid going into curve 1, where it's actually going a little bit uphill going into the big omega curve 2. You want to allow a little bit of the waves, but try not to go up and down too much. Here you see a little uphill between curve 3 and 4, and it's so important to get these little curves right. You're going pretty slow there, so every mistake will cost you big at the bottom if you don't carry the speed in this part of the track. Here you go into Roussel, and that's where the sled starts picking up the speed. That's where the track starts dropping down. Here, curve 9, that's where you really carry the speed. You want to be crucial to get it right. Go into the labyrinths. Here you have high speed. Four men go up to 135 kilometers per hour, going into the uphill finish curve and through the finish line.
Well, this has been a track that everybody has always brought young athletes to. It's quite benign compared to somewhere like Lake Placid or Altenburg, which have got a lot more risks to them potentially, but that means that most of the drivers know it well, and so the detailed mistakes are going to be the key thing here. Justin Kripps is our World Cup leader with a so far perfect score in four-man. He won both four-man races in Lake Placid before Christmas, and so the Canadian, who also finished on the podium in both two-man races, is starting this year in very fine form. But the last non-German winner on this track was Alexander Zubkov back in 2013, and we have not had a US winner here in Winterberg since Stephen Holcomb a decade ago. 10 years since he and Justin Olsen, Steve Mesler and Kurt Tomasevich won, of course, in the lead up to their gold medal in the four-man later that spring in Whistler. So weather conditions, +4 degrees, ice -3, a little bit of light misty drizzle, and basically here in Winterberg the weather has been different every day in training. So in terms of choosing the right runners for the weather, it's a bit of a guess, right?
It's very tricky. First day of training, it was pretty warm, a little humid, it was very frosty on the track. Second day of training, it was bright sunshine, it was really cold, track was blazingly fast. Yesterday it was a little slower again, so I'm guessing the guys will have a tough time picking the right runners.
So slightly softer ice with the rain, a bit more humidity, the refrigeration will be on, so it'll frost a little bit. 22 sleds in our entry list, and last year's winner Nico Walter will be the last of them because he was injured and didn't race in North America, so he's way back in World Cup points, but he's never been off the podium here. So let's get our four-man European campaign underway here. Winterberg in Germany with Ralf Berchins of Latvia. He's got a new man, Edgars Nemi, 23-year-old volleyball player, behind him, and another debutant, Edgars Pirogs, on the back handle. So two brand new brakemen in this four-man sled.
The Latvians have such a strong program. They've always done well in the start, and this is a track where they typically do really well too. 5:21. It's a more than decent start and really clean out of curve 0. A little wavy going up there in curve 2, but controls it nicely.
See there from the camera how you do come uphill over that little brow to turn 4.
And it is so important to get it right and to be straight in those upper portions of the track.
So picking up speed, 94 kilometers an hour into the Roussel.
Nice and early on the 8, but doesn't control it well and has a little tab before 9. Really great exit there, going onto curve, the little curve 10. Smooth looking labyrinths, no problems there, a little brush on the wall before going into the uphill curve 14. And that is a lot slower than they've went on training. on Wednesday, on New Year's Day, when we had a really fast training. The fastest guys were going 54.8, 54.6, and now it's 56.4. It's a lot slower than they're used to from the previous days.
Again, the weather changing every day. And trouble here, little tap and then a long skid. Now, less damaging than if it was in turn 3, but still, it takes speed away.
And this is a brutal entrance into curve 9. The guys will have felt that he was going in late, and it just takes a lot on their bodies.
Those rapid changeovers of direction down in the labyrinth. There's Ralphs with his helmet off. So here's the first of our 22 sleds. 2 will not go through into Heat 2. Who will they be? Well, first up, Brad Hall from Great Britain, a 29-year-old. Best 4-man result, bronze in Salt Lake City in 2017. He's got Lawrence Taylor Lawrence rather, behind him, a World Cup debutant. And Luke Dawes also makes his World Cup debut at 3, with Greg Cackett back on the handles at 4. Now, all 3 British sleds are self-funding this season, so Brad Hall's team, Lamin Dean's Heat team, who we'll also see, and Misha McNeil's crew, who we're seeing in the women's race, all funding their own programs, their own travel, and paying their own athletes.
He had a really clean exit out of curve 0, and it's looking nice and clean up the top so far. No mistakes. Oh, but there, I said it and he did it. Skidded out of 5, skidded out of 6, and that's gonna cost you a little speed.
In the green at the moment, ahead of the Latvian sled of Ralph Berchin's 1800s up.
Late entrance there, and the guys will have felt that for sure. A little long on 11, and that's a brutal transition, 12 to 13, skidding into curve 14.
The British team's been helped out by Olympic bronze medalist Sean Olsen from the Nagano Games. There he is on the right-hand side. And Brad Hall, 56.09. So that sees him as our leader. Now, first step is to make sure you qualify for the second heat, but they'll be looking for a little bit more than that.
4 tenths in the lead over Ralph Berchin's.
So the 2 rookies, Royal Marine Commando Taylor Lawrence, and from 2 para, Luke Dawes at 2 and 3.
And here you can see the sideways slide between 5 and 6, and then as well going out of curve 6 into Kreisel. Long on curve 11. He tries to avoid the too early entrance into 12, but you can see there's a lot of driving, and he's a little unstable on the track. I don't know if it's got to do with the rainy weather.
Well, let's see what Iver de Bruin of the Netherlands can produce. 14th and 11th in the 2 races here last year. The 33-year-old Dutchman.
5:20, but a little long on curve 0. Takes a tap, but controls it, doesn't break into a skid.
Well, he's in the lead, courtesy of that slightly faster start than Brad Hall's sled.
He didn't have his normal foreman crew in the Europa Cup races so far, and he's very pleased to be racing with the 3 strongest guys behind him.
Oh, long skid.
Yeah, he wanted to avoid that wall, but drives himself into a little skid there.
So he goes from the green to the red, 91.6 kilometers an hour.
9, but also 10 to a little skid.
Again, he's a little late down at the bottom into the big finish curve, and then starting to climb uphill to the line, 1700s back. Tom Delahunty, the coach there.
And he's shaking his head. He knows that mistake out of curve 6 going into Kreisel has cost him so much speed, because he was running really nicely until that point.
We talked about it at the beginning. It's tiny errors that creep in here that make the difference between those who are at the sharp end of the field and the rest. Decent looking load from Iver de Bruin, Joost Dumas, Dennis Venke and Janko Francic on the back handles.
Dropping their arms at the same time. And here you can see the skid going into 6, and he wants to avoid the wall, but massive skid going into Kreisel.
Well, now these guys may well have had the best of the ice, a fresh spritz, a nice shine of water to give a mirror surface to the ice, and gradually we may well see that that is starting to sag away. Next up is Alexei Stulnev. Didn't race here last year, but he was in the four-man races in Lake Placid. He was 10th and 6th in the two encounters before Christmas. 35th World Cup start in four-man alone for the Russian.
Very experienced guy.
Bronze medal in Koenigsegg 2017 in World Cup four-man. That's his best four-man World Cup result. 5:15, that's a decent start from the Russians.
Very efficient load. We also saw a little drift out of curve 0, but no skids, just going straight. It's as good as you get. Nice transition from 2 to 3. Stays on the left while they're going into 4. It's looking really clean in the upper part of the track. Goes straight into 6. A little drift there too, but not as big as the ones we've seen before from Brad Hall and Ivo de Bruin. Goes a little late into 8, and that means a lot of driving to control it in curve 8.
Fortunes really change in the Russian team almost on a weekly basis. Alexei Stulnev didn't make the team to be here last year. He's their #1 this year. Skiddy down into the seal curve. 131 and change at the bottom, nearly 132 kilometers an hour. And the first sub-56 slide, 55.96. So he leads from Brad Hall in second place, Ivo de Bruin in third, Ralph Bergins in fourth. And right now that means that Brad Hall makes the second heat because there are 2 sleds behind him. So that worry is done for him. As long as he doesn't get disqualified. Probably shouldn't say things like that.
Here you can see him on curve 11. Nice high line there. You want to control it, be long there so you can go early into the first labyrinth.
Looking at that shot, you can already see the matte shine on the ice. It's gone from being a gloss shine from the spritz. It's already starting to frost a little.
And I think the drivers so far have had a little trouble adjusting to the different conditions. It's a lot slower than they trained. It's more water, more frost, and it definitely has a different feel to driving.
World Cup rookie making his debut, Rostislav Gajtuchikov. I knew I'd get that wrong. 25-year-old 800-meter runner. 4th in Europa Cup, 2-man here and 4-man here last year.
He's been really impressive in Europa Cup, getting really fast starts, so I'm guessing that's why they put him in. And as you can see, 5:08. It's easily the fastest start we've seen so far.
Well, the crew is hugely experienced. Alexei Zaitsev at 2 and Vasily Kondratenko at 3, with Andrei Kazantsev, who's been with Gajtuchev, the driver, making his World Cup debut here.
Came a little late into 4 and had to drive quite hard to get it out into curve 5. But this is looking a lot cleaner than what we've seen from the first couple of sleds. A little early going out of Kreisel, and it puts him with the right pressure going late into 8s. Comes up there at the end of curve 9, controls it early onto 12, a lot of time to turn it, and then you can avoid the wall going into curve 14 and carry all the speed you've collected.
This is close to the lead. He ties with Alexei Stulnev. That's a great first slide. And the boys behind him will be very happy. They outstarted Stulnev's crew, and they are tied with their Russian teammates. So that's a great opener for Rostislav Gajtuchikov.
It's a really hard name. I've been practicing it too.
Too many syllables.
Well,
nice starting.
Considering my name, I think it's quite easy.
Well, lots of experience in the middle of the sled, but the driver and the brakeman, Andrei Kazantsev, making their World Cup debut, having come up from Europa Cup last year. So they know the tracks, and that's why they weren't in North America. But there he is, 25 years old, looking very happy with himself, so he should. Brad Hall in 3rd, but it's a Russian tie for the lead. 5 down, 17 to go. Four-man race one in Winterberg, Germany. Martin Haven and Belgian driver Anne van Nieuwenhuis watching the action as Hunter Church makes his World Cup debut in Europe for the USA. Still just 23 years old, a man from Cadyville, New York. Born a little further north though. Anchorage, Alaska was where he started his career, or his youth. Good start, 5:14 from the Americans.
And a really good control in curve zero. I was very impressed with the way he learned this track in just a couple of days. He's been doing really well on training.
Yeah, hasn't raced here before in Europa Cup or anything else, but when he comes from a busy track like Lake Placid, where they were before Christmas, to a much more relaxed, slow steering track like this, the adapting is quite hard.
It's a big adjustment, especially from curve 0 to curve 6. It's all so slow and controlled. Little high there, dropping in the middle of curve 11.
He gets a decent early draw, 6th in the field, still with the lead as he gets down to the finish curve and just 100th behind the two Russians. Very good run from Hunter Church. Again, if you watched him, you wouldn't necessarily know this is his first ever race weekend here.
Only had six training runs, did 2 runs in a 2-man to get to know the track before going into his 4-man. So with only 4 4-man runs on this track ever, this is a really impressive drive. A little long curve 8, taps before going into 9, and then it's just a really abrupt transition going into 9. A little high there, drops, and then rises again before going into the labyrinth. And then you can see his whole sled moving sideways. It's just not carrying the maximum speed he could, but great job from Hunter.
Hunter Church, Josh Williamson, Jimmy Reed and Chris Horn for the USA. Next up, our World Cup points leader, Justin Kripps. 2 wins so far and 2 bronze medals in 2-man in Lake Placid over a very good fortnight for the Canadian before Christmas. He's got Ben Coatwell, Ryan Summer and Cam Stones on the sled, so no new blood and lots of experience.
They were very impressive in training. They skipped the last training day because they were bosses in both runs on the second training day. 5:17. I don't know if they'll be 100% pleased with that.
We now start to wonder whether it's frosting up a little bit at the top of the track at the start. There is a bit of a breeze, a little bit of rain drizzling down as well. Now he's into the green. 300 up. Now, how far can he get ahead? There hasn't been a Canadian on the podium here in a decade.
A little skid from Kreisel going into 8. But a good control there. A little late entrance going into 11. It's great to see him waving up and down a little bit.
Cripps was on the last Canadian sled to take a medal here. That was driven by Pierre Luders in 2007, 2008. Dave Bissett, Lascelles Brown, and Justin Kripps with the brakeman. 55.90, fastest run of the day so far.
Good drive, especially the bar 3, 4, 5. That's where he carried the speed. A little mistake going out of Kreisel, a little sideways going there into 8, but really nice drive from Justin Kripps.
So Justin Kripps now with a solid lead in World Cup 4-man rankings, just needs to rack up the points and keep his nose in front.
You see him going into curve 11 on the right side, and that's where he's going late in. He's going up, coming down in the middle, and then going up there at the end of the curve, and then has a really abrupt flop off a little too early into the labyrinths.
So double 4-man weekend here. The Germans are always strong, and Kripps knows that. That's because when we go to Sigulda before the World Champs, that'll be a double 2-man weekend in Latvia. Oskars Kibermanis hoping to keep some Latvian results alive here. It's been Oskars Melbardis who's scored all their medals in recent years. He's still racing in Europa Cup last weekend in Koenigsegg.
He was 4th in both races last year here, so I think he's determined to get onto the podium this time.
Still got to beat 3 Germans. That's always the same. 5:12, that's a decent start, but not the fastest.
And I think it just shows how good that Russian two sled was starting. If you can beat Kibermanis by 400s, they're impressive pushers, and if you can beat them, it's just really quick. Clean lines at the top so far. Little skid going there, but avoids the wall going into Kreisel. Very controlled, good speed.
He's got a new man on the sled at 2. Laris Kaufmannis has only made 3 World Cup starts.
He has a nicer entrance into 11. It's still a little wavy, some sideways movement going into curve 12. Controls it really good, still in the lead. He's having a really good run.
This could put the Germans under pressure, 55-82. Big smile from Sanders Prusis. My records don't go far back enough to see where Sanders Prusis finished in his best races here. But former slider for Latvia, been coaching these guys for a long while now. And 55-82, good start from these guys as well, 5-12.
Very efficient load of the driver.
Yeah.
Gets in and down in one movement. Here at curve 11. He's going up at the end. A little too high maybe to have the perfect transition going into curve 12, and then you can see runners dropping. A lot of friction on the ice spraying up. It's speed that's just not going forward.
Kibermanis, silver medalist in race 1 in the Lake Placid 4-man. Here's Hansi Lochner with Florian Bauer, Christopher Weber and Christian Rasp behind him. Won here in December 2017. He was 4th and 2nd in the races in Lake Placid.
5:08, really impressive start. Good control in curve 0 and curve 1.
He's never been off the podium here in 4 World Cup 4-man starts.
Too early going into 5, touches the wall before going in. And the same thing happens going into Kreisel. And there must be something wrong with that speed measurement because he's not going 77 kilometers per hour there.
77 miles an hour, not even that slow.
That was a really late entrance into 9, and that's just really tough on the guys. Clean labyrinths, little touch before going into curve 14.
Rocking and rolling now. Has he gone for fat runners, and is it paying off? It is, 55-66. A little bit of a rocky ride, just letting it fly. There's 2 ways of either have a fatter runner to reduce the digging into soft ice, or to go for a slightly narrower runner so that you don't get so much held up by the frost, and you've got to guess which way the weather and the track surface is going to go.
Exactly, and it depends on the confidence of a driver as well, if they can handle the really big runners, if they can produce the clean lines with the bigger runners as well. But here, he was a little high late there, and then slides sideways, hitting the wall before going to curve 14.
So Berchtesgaden's Johannes Lochner leads, but leaves the door open for his teammates, and here they come. This is Francesco Friedrich, our 2 and 4-man Olympic champion, and for the very first time in a brand new FES-built 4-man sled. So he has been racing Valna sleds for years, and now in the new FES 4-man. 2 years out from the games, this is where FES need to learn how good this sled can be. 5:10 getaway. Hugely experienced crew behind him. Candy Bauer, Martin Grotkopp, Torsten Margis, they've all been on medal-winning sleds here, but he's 100th behind.
He wasn't green for just a moment there. Must have had a really efficient load, but made some mistake in curve 1 and curve 2. He's long on curve 5, but a really good control in 6. Little lower line there.
When you change to a different make of sled, you have to learn its little subtleties, don't you? Like having a different hire car where everything is slightly different.
Definitely. But these guys,
Wow.
letting it run, but that was a little bit too free.
Still close to the lead, and he takes it at the bottom, and this is what he's been doing the last couple of seasons. He just lets it fly, and he's really, really confident. I always say about his racing results, his great sporting heroes, Michael Schumacher, the Formula One driver, his racing results are in a similar caliber, but the way that he drives is as well. He's got so much confidence that he can save anything. He doesn't, he's not frustrated by small mistakes, he just lets it go.
Yeah. You
Look
can
at
see
this.
he's high late on curve 11. Touches the wall before going into 12, and then it pushes you away slightly, and then you have late height, and you slam into the wall going into curve 14.
But he holds it together and still has a slender lead. Francesco Friedrich, this has been a happy hunting ground for him. Won one of last year's 2 races. Leads now from Johannes Lochner with Oskars Kiebermanis in 3rd, and the World Cup points leader Justin Kripps in 4th. 10 of our 22 sleds down, 12 to go. Race 1 of the double 4-man weekend here in Winterberg, Germany. Martin Haven and Antoine Nieuwenhuis in the booth watching the action as Switzerland's Michael Vogt gets ready to go. Just 22 years old in his 10th 4-man World Cup start.
.520 and a really nice curve 0.
Last year he had 2 races here, was disqualified with weight issues in the first heat, in the first day rather, came back and finished 12th in the second race.
I think it had something to do with padding at the side of the cowling.
Oh, that's right, it was, wasn't it?
Some pilots, I do it too on training, to take your head and your helmet a little bit. You put it next to your head where your helmet would slam the cowling, and I think he just forgot to take it off, and that's why he got disqualified, because it makes an aerodynamic difference.
4 tenths back from Michael Vogt, looking for a top 10 run here for the Swiss. Oliver Giga, Cyril Bieri and Sandro Michel are his 3 crewmen.
Clean lines at the bottom of the track, just a little brush going into 14. Just above 56, in 8th place so far.
2 former British coaches, Peter Ramseidel and Chris Woolley, helping out the Swiss this year. And the man at 3, Cyril Bieri, went from being the youngest on Billy Meyerhand's crew at 26 to being the oldest on this crew at 26.
It's a really young team.
Yeah.
They're still learning. They did really well on the 4-man World Championships last year.
Oliver Giga, the man who loads right behind his driver, is just 20 years old. From Thun, not far from Samaritz.
Oh, they ran it really long.
Yeah.
Coming out of 13, brushing the wall going into 14, sideways movement, and you see some runners going up.
Well, no Swiss 4-man medals here in recent years. Bernd Hefty was often a big winner here because of his starts in the 2-man. Next up, Dominic Dvorak, 30th 4-man World Cup start for Dvorak. He's 23rd as a driver. And in fact, his World Cup debut came here with Jan Verber. Dominic Sushi, Jan Sindelar, Jakub Nosek, very experienced guys behind him. This is a powerful starting crew.
They also skipped the last training day, so he must be really confident that his driving is going well here. 5:15, very impressive start.
Last year, 7th in race 1, 8th in race 2 in Winterberg in the 2 4-man races.
A little abrupt steering off of curve 2, but it went straight, so no issues there.
Nudge on the wall uphill to turn 3 and 4. 2 tenths back.
I've seen a lot of people this week in training getting caught in the first wave of Roussel. It's shaped a little different than we're used to, with a lot of drivers go up higher than they expect. I don't know if that's
good or
driving
bad.
material or just getting it right.
8th place, 56.01, 4th fastest speed down at the bottom, so those good lines through the labyrinth gave him the speed in the final corners. So 8th place at the moment. Who behind him might be dangerous? Well, a few. Patrick Baumgartner, Rudy Rinaldi, Roman Heinrich. Don't forget our last sled on the ice, Nico Walter, a winner here in the last 2 years.
In and down, hands on the handles before they're out of the starting groove. And here a little wave as well in curve 11, like we've seen so many sleds, just taking the dip in the middle of the curve and going up high at the end.
Dominic Dvorak for the Czech Republic, firmly in the top 10, halfway through this first heat of our double four-man race weekend. Next up in our 13th starting sled, Jin Soo Korea, the 34-year-old Olympic silver medalist. Best race here, 9th place last year. He was 12th in the first race, 9th in the second. That's his best World Cup four-man result. At this track, his best ever 5th in Lake Placid, back in 2016. 5:23, that's not a great rocket sled start.
When he's very long into curve 1, crosses over a little too diagonal going into curve 2. There's just too much distance that you're covering. You want to minimize it at the top of the track. Just take the shortcuts.
Well, the start here is so important, isn't it? Being the slowest starter in the field so far is definitely not helping the Korean sled.
No, but he has decent speed going into Roussel. He's not far off the fastest sled, and then breaks into his skin going into curve. Good control there. Long curve 9 and going late into 11 and rising up there.
Oh. Uncomfortable at the back of the four-man.
All the guys are used to it. It's never gonna be like really smooth transitions there at the lower labyrinth. You're going really fast. These sleds, you have like 5 centimeters on each side to make a smooth transition. So these four-mans are not so easily driven in the labyrinths.
Well, the man at the back who sat up first on the brakes, Byung-do Che, just 19 years old. And this is only his 4th ever four-man race. 2 of them were the World Cup races in Lake Placid. So a regular crew, he's got Jin Soo Kim and Kyungmin Lee at 2 and 3. And this new teenager on the back handles.
And here dropping off 12 and dropping off 13. It's just more friction than you would want to, but it's not easy to get it nice and clean through it. It might take a little bit too much driving as well to get it like the really smooth lines.
Next up for Monaco, making only his 10th four-man World Cup start, is Rudy Rinaldi, 26-year-old. Best four-man race was 4th place in St. Moritz in January last season. 22-year-old Antoine Rioux at 2 makes his World Cup debut, his 3rd bobsleigh race ever. Thibaut Desmartins and Boris Van bring the experience at 3 and 4.
Yeah, they were disappointed by the results in Lake Placid, so they weren't too pleased to write about it on social media and stuff, but I think they're eager to improve on their results this week.
Finishing 8th place in the first race here last year, but then his brakeman pulled a hamstring, didn't he, at the start, and they couldn't do the second day.
A little high there in the first wave of Roussel, like a lot of sets have been doing, but nice and clean exit, going straight into the middle of curve 8, and a really late entrance there in curve 9. A little Bradley, second, getting away from him. Control at the end of curve 11. It's very rocky in the labyrinths.
They can know all about that in the back seats. 12th place, 56.26. That's not a top draw drive, I'm afraid. Bruno Mijon gives a little ripple of applause, but Rudy Rinaldi knows that that was not of his best.
He's tied with Ivo de Bruin at this moment. Long on curve 9, and then it's just the back end gets away from him, drifting, but controls it again at the end. A little too early into curve 12. That's why the transition is so brutal. He wants to get it early high into curve 13. You can see him steering it up, but it's just a little too soon.
Just watch that
And
going away
Bruno
shot.
is not very happy with that.
Not at all. He won't be the only one. Well, next up, Roman Heinrich of France, 30th World Cup four-man start. Only his 11th, though, as a driver. And Roma, last season here, was his four-man World Cup driving debut. Jeremy Butera returns from his studies to go back at 4. after injury in the team, and Roman was saying that he's going with narrower runners today because he reckons the track's going to frost up.
Calculated guess, I guess.
Yeah, well, he said it's just where we gamble it's going to go. A bit of a slip at the start from Lacis.
5:22, good control around curve 0. A little too much on the right side, but avoids taking a tap going into curve 1. Nice in the middle going into curve 4. But a little bang going into curve 5. You can hear the sled touching the ice.
Heard it under the camera, didn't see it.
Skids going into curve 8. Late going into 9, and you can see the back runner just jumping into the curve.
Head next week to Latvia in France, Roman's home track. He said they are so excited about having World Cup racing back there.
I'm sure he's the most experienced driver of the whole field there.
Well, he was there for a week or so over Christmas, but half of that was coaching young kids doing luge and bobsleigh and skeleton. He was saying when you go down to the side of the track to film and to watch them,
they were braking early.
Way steep snow, yeah. Well, Jeremy Butera, his last World Cup race was in January 2019. So he's studying physio exams. He was doing exams before Christmas. So just a little out of practice.
Well, I think it's just because of the difference with training. They were easily 1.5 seconds faster on training. So then you just have to brake full if you do the same thing now. And here you can see the left back runner being airborne, thrown into curve 9. When you have a late entrance, it's just so brutal.
So now, will the gamble help out with the runners in this run or in the second run? Francesco, Friedrich, Johannes, Lochner, Oskar, Manis are top 3 after the first 15 sleds. Patrick Baumgartner of Italy, 16th of 22 sleds. Martin Haven and Antoine Johannes watching the Italians get underway.
He did really well here on Europa Cup, medaled in one of the races, and that's always impressive on a German track when you have four German teams starting in Europa Cup. So I'm really excited to see what he will produce here in World Cup.
He was the 4-man Europa Cup champion last season. He was also the first ever youth Olympic champion in boys bobsleigh.
Little drift there between 3 and 4. You can see working the runners to control it.
He's been around a long while, just 25 years old. It's his 11th 4-man World Cup race now, though.
He was really long into curve 6, had to work really hard to get it out. Going late into 9 as well. That's looking really nice, going early into 11, good control there. That's very clean labyrinth.
8/10 back for Patrick Baumgartner. Is this going to be a top 10 run at the bottom? No, it's not. 56.55, 16th.
That was not the best. But
Manny Mahata there, the coach.
He said that's not the best.
No, not the best. This was actually where Baumgartner made his World Cup 4-man debut, January the 4th, 2014. So 5 years ago tomorrow when he will race again. And he's still only 25.
Yeah. He's one of the drivers who came out of the Youth Olympic program. He won the Youth Olympics at Eagles in 2012.
And a man who was also driving for Italy then, in Italy 1, Simone Butazzo, is here coaching him, along with Manny Mahata, so that cycle continues. Well, there is Patrick Baumgartner with the orange helmet on. You can see how much it is drizzling down there at the finish area. Next up is Timo Rohnert, son of Marcel Rohnert, one of Switzerland's big stars of the 1990s. With Adrian Fessler changed, Joel Fearon pulled a muscle in warm-up, and so Roger Limegruber is at 3, and rookie Muran Chuma is the man on the brakes.
Little drift out of the grooves, 5:24. Good control in curve 0. Nice parallel transition from 2 to 3. Clean line so far. I'm scared to say it because I'll jinx it.
Got to say something, it's down to the driver to avoid listening to you. He's got other things to do. 95 kilometers an hour on the exit.
Looking clean so far. A little high going into 9 there. Good control. Early into 11. Little flat line going late there. He's only 4 tenths back.
Good looking run from Timo Rohnert. 12th place. And a chance perhaps to move up. Bit of Ramsidle and Chris Woolley liking that one. And we were supposed to have 2 debutants on this sled. At the back, Marouane Chioma making his World Cup debut. And we're also supposed to have making his Swiss World Cup debut, Joel Fearon, the Olympic bronze medalist now from 2014 Sochi Games, but hopefully he'll be fit maybe next week in La Plagne.
And you can see the drift, just avoiding the right wall going into curve 0. That would have cost him so much time. Coming out of 13, just brushing the right wall before going into 14. You can see the brakeman jumping up a little bit and then touching the inside wall. A lot of people roll out there. It's a very dangerous finish curve, so he was like better safe than sorry.
Yeah. It's double 4-man weekend. Don't bounce the guys on their heads in run 1. Next up, Mihai Tentea of Romania. He has done 2 World Championships and an Olympic Games as a 2-man driver and 1 World Cup 2-man start. He has never started a World Cup 4-man race until today.
He has done a lot of Europa Cup racing. He's done really well. Got several podium finishes before Christmas, so he's definitely at his pace here in World Cup.
Still just 21 years old, very much one of the most junior of the juniors.
He competed at the Youth Olympic Games in 2016 on the Hummer, so he's a very young driver, but he's learning a lot and doing a lot of runs. So.
And in fact, total 4-man World Cup starts over the entire 4-man crew. 1 start by Raul Dobre, who sits at 2. The others have never started a World Cup race in a 4-man sled. It's a proper rookie team. Not the least experience at the World Cup level that we've got in the field, though. 56.22, he's in the race as well.
Goes until to 14th place.
Yeah, nice run from Mihai Tentea. Again, the brakeman there, Christian Radu, just a little ambitious on the brakes.
He's long on curve 4, and that's why he's touching before going into curve 5. And here, out of 13. Some sideways movement. He tries to avoid the wall going into 14, but then the back end gets hit anyway.
So 18 sleds down, 4 to go, and only 2 places left in the field. Sean Olsen at the front of the sled of Lamin, the 38-year-old guardsman from the British Army, with Ollie Butterworth, a paratrooper and rugby player, making his World Cup debut. Ben Simons at 3, and Ryan Letts in his 3rd World Cup start on the back of the sled. And para Ollie Butterworth's first baby is due 2 weeks after the World Championships. So he will be very nervous in Altenburg. A first baby is rarely full term, Ollie, I hate to tell you. So let's see what Lamin can produce. 9th here in his last World Cup 4-man race here in 2017.
5:21, a little long on curve 1. And I've seen Lamin in Europa Cup, I've seen the sled, but it still looks strange to see a GB driver in a yellow and black sled, who is so typically German. Skid between 5 and 6, and that's why he brushes the wall going into Kreisel.
2 or 3 years ago, Lamin came shooting straight through the finish area when the brake handles broke and went right up the escape ramp onto the concrete. There is no ice on the escape ramp. It'll be straight onto the concrete if they have a similar problem. So where is he going to finish? Is he in or is he out? He's in 8th place. He is very much in. That's a really good run for Lamin. Excellent job. Excellent job. Lamin, Ollie Butterworth, Ben Semtek Simons, and Ryan Letts.
Out of a
first hit.
5:21 start,
Yeah.
in the back of the field with frosty eyes, that's really impressive.
Let's take a look at the low driver in first, then the man at 2 has to hang up until 4 sits down, then 3 sits down.
High line at the end of curve 11. And it looks like a good transition, just avoids the wall going into 12. Brushes there as well, going into 14. We've seen so many sleds do that.
19 sleds down, 3 to go, and only 1 more place in the race. So, who is going to miss out? At the moment, Jin Soo Korea will absolutely be in the race because he'll be the 20th of our 20 sleds. We'll have to wait and see what happens after him. 29-year-old Jin Soo making his 4-man World Cup debut. Taiwan Kim, Kyun Kim, and Han Kang are the crew.
They were here for training in October, so it's not the first time he's been here. He had some experience on the track, so I'm confident that he will produce a decent drive.
Well, he needs to start 5:30, leaves him a long way behind.
Clean lines at the top at 95 kilometers per hour going into Roussel. That was one of the better speeds we've seen so far.
So 4100s behind Francesco Friedrich, and he is not losing any more time. The gap closes a little.
Very controlled curve 11. Nice looking labyrinth. Just touches before going into the finish curve.
Looks like the speed in the track is holding up well. 9th fastest run, 56.01.
Oh! They're very
happy
excited.
with that. They should be. So speed in the track is holding up well right at the end of the run. A cynic would say, is there a German sled coming soon?
I didn't want to say it, but yes, definitely. I think the track workers are doing their best to keep a...
Yeah. Well, listen, in this drizzle, you can't do anything other than keep the refrigeration on and just try and keep the ice alive.
But of course, they'll do their best to keep an even track for every competitor.
Well, decent lines from Jin Soo, and a really good first run here.
Little drop of the runner there and touching the wall, airborne, going into 14.
Nice weather for ducks, maybe not so nice for bobsleighing. 20 sleds down, Francesco Friedrich, Johannes, Lochner, Oskars, Manis. That's the 1, 2, 3. No German top 3. That's because our 3rd German sled is still to come. 2 to go here in Winterberg. Martin Haven and Antoine Nieuwenhuis watching a World Cup debut for Japan. Ryo Shinohara, Yoshiki Kaneko, Kenji Murakami, and Kosuke Asano on the back handles. All 4 making their World Cup debut. We saw the Japanese women competing a couple of seasons ago, 2 or 3 years ago, very successfully, but it's been a long while since we've had a Japanese men's sled.
5:33, not the fastest start, and then we saw the mistake in curve 0, a little too long on there, hit the wall, little skid. It's just losing speed at the top of the track. It's going really late into curve 5.
7 tenths back at this stage. Jin Soo was 4 tenths back. So it's not a top 10 run. The question is, will it be enough to put him in the field?
On touches before going into 11, pushed away. Had a little mishap here in training, but controls it well now in the labyrinths.
1.1 behind, not sure this is going to see him in the race. At the line, he is 21st, 57.09 slide. So he is not going to make the second heat.
The coaches weren't sure how to react on that.
No. Well, it's a World Cup debut. It may not be the best run he'll ever produce, but it is the first run that he's produced on TV.
And another one of the brakemen just pulling the handles a little too strong.
Yeah.
Here we see the exit of, oh, he's coming down too early and then catches the 3rd pressure, almost rolls over there, touches the inside wall, and then skids going late into 11. Little jumpy there between 12 and 13, but he knew that he should control it, not to get rolled out.
So our 22nd and final sled here, Nico Walter, Paul Krenz, Josh Bloom and Eric Franke. Nico's 40th four-man World Cup, in which time he has taken 7 four-man wins out of 18 podiums in 40 four-man starts. So that's nearly a 50% podium finishing record. 5:09, that's a fantastic start.
That's very strong. Little touch on the wall, out of 0, but nice and straight, going to 1.
Only one sled started faster, and that was our Russian rookie, so 5:09. Francesco Friedrich started 5:10, but Johannes Lochner started 5:08 as well, so still Nico Walter with the lead. Won race 1 here last year.
Great speed in Kreisel. A little long there, brushing him over to curve 8.
And this is Nico's first race ever in his life. He's not been in an FES-built sled. This is a brand new stamp for four-man that he bought in the summer. 1200s up, he's going to lead at the end of the run. It's going to be 1400s.
Wow. Producing great speed, that new sled.
I was talking to him yesterday and he was saying, I bought a Stamford sled, I wanted to do something a little different. Then I saw the new FES and I went, oh no, man, that looks so good. But that's a great run out of the last sled in the field. He was injured before Christmas, that hamstring again. Spoke to him and I said, how are you doing? He said, I'm okay.
He must have got a really good team behind him to push him to a 5:09, coming out of injury himself. Not being at his fittest level probably after injury. Then those 3 guys in the back did a great job.
Well, he's always had a team that really believes, and you know, all 3 German drivers do, but Nico Walter started 22nd of our 22 sleds and leads after the first of our 2 heats here. And like Lake Placid, this is going to be like a World Championship dress rehearsal. 2 heats today, 2 heats tomorrow. Same track, different conditions, but in that head mindset and all together looking towards Altenburg, his home track, and Francesco's home track.
And another German 1, 2, 3.
Well, gee, what a surprise. Haven't had a German 1, 2, 3 since December 2019. Nico Walter, Francesco Friedrich, Hansi Lochner, that's the 1, 2, 3. Oskars Kibermanis, Justin Kripps and Alexei Stulnev. And our rookie, Rostislav Gajtukevich. Yeah, him. And in 9th place, Lamin behind Hunter Church, Dominic Dvorak and Jin Soo tied for 10th. It's the nature of this track. We get a lot of very close heats, a lot of ties. Ralph Betchins just clings on. Patrick Baumgartner of Italy doesn't make the 2nd heat, nor does our World Cup rookie Ryo Shinohara. So 20 sleds will go in reverse order their first heat performance from 20 down to 1. Ralph Betchins will again be first off, and Nico Walter will again be last off in the 2nd heat. And that will be coming up at 1600 local, which is in about 35 minutes from now, 1500 Greenwich Mean Time. Join us then. Meanwhile, from the IBSF TV crew on site, from me, Martin Hayford, from Van Nieuwenhuis, bye for now.